If you are over 65 and planning to renew your driver's license in 2026, listen closely because the rules you've depended on for years can vanish without warning as DMVs across the United States begin enforcing brand new regulations that directly impact who stays on the road and under what conditions. These are not future proposals and not ideas being hashed out in Congress. They are active right now, and thousands of drivers are already being blindsided. Seniors who assumed a quick online renewal are suddenly being required to show up in person for vision testing. Drivers who miss even one insurance payment are discovering their registrations get suspended. And people who so much as glance at a phone for a moment at a red light are getting expensive citations delivered by mail weeks later. What most people miss is that many drivers don't even realize these rules exist until it's too late. And by the time they find out, they're already dealing with fines, restrictions, or even the loss of driving privileges. If you depend on your car for doctor appointments, grocery runs, visiting family, or simply maintaining independence, these 2026 DMV rules matter in a very personal way, and in the next few minutes, you are going to understand what has changed, who is most affected, and what you can do immediately to protect your license, your freedom, and your wallet. The goal here is simple. Break down complicated DMV updates and driving law shifts into clear, usable guidance with no legal jargon and no confusion. Because these new 2026 rules represent some of the biggest shifts in driver regulation in years, especially for older drivers, and the common assumption, "I've driven safely for decades, so nothing will change for me," can now create real trouble. The new changes fall into three major categories every driver needs to grasp. First, expanded vision testing requirements that primarily affect drivers age 65 and older. Second, a real-time insurance verification system that continuously monitors your coverage status and can trigger instant penalties the moment something goes wrong. And third, far stricter distracted driving enforcement powered by technology that makes it easier than ever to catch violations. Each change alone is significant, but together they signal a completely different approach to enforcement in America. The era of friendly warnings and flexible grace periods fades fast. Automation replaces human judgment, and systems move quicker, stricter, and much less forgiving, which means drivers who are not paying close attention can suddenly face fines, suspensions, or restrictions they never expected. Now watch this, because the first shift is already creating massive confusion and concern, especially among seniors: mandatory vision retesting. If you are 65 or older, the way you renew your driver's license is changing in a very real and very important way. For years, many older drivers could renew online or by mail without ever stepping inside a DMV office, but that convenience is being removed in a growing number of states. Under the 2026 rules, drivers age 65 and older are increasingly being required to renew in person and pass a vision screening before approval. And this is already active in several large states, while more states prepare to adopt the same policy. Meaning that even if you've renewed the same way for decades, that option may no longer exist for you. Transportation officials explain the logic in straightforward terms. As people age, eyesight naturally declines, and issues like cataracts, glaucoma, macular degeneration, reduced depth perception, and similar changes can make driving more dangerous, even when the driver doesn't fully notice how much vision has shifted. Safety agencies argue that regular vision checks can spot problems before they contribute to crashes, and from a public safety angle, that rationale is easy to understand. But for many seniors, this requirement feels stressful, confusing, and even frightening because driving is not just transportation. It represents independence, freedom, and control over daily life. So the idea that a routine renewal can suddenly turn into a complicated, restrictive hurdle is a serious concern. Here is how it can unfold in real life. Imagine you are 70 years old and your license expires in a few months. You have been driving safely for 50 years with no major issues, and you naturally expect to renew the same way you always have. You log into the DMV site expecting a quick online process, only to be told you must appear in person for a vision screening. You schedule an appointment, wait several weeks for an opening, and finally go to the office. When it is your turn, you look at the chart and realize those smaller letters are harder than you expected. Maybe they blur, maybe you hesitate, and maybe you do not pass on the first attempt. At that point, the DMV can place restrictions on your license or demand additional medical documentation before allowing renewal. Those limits can take different forms. Some drivers are restricted to daylight-only driving, which means no nighttime driving. Others are limited to a specific distance from home, such as a 10 or 20-mile radius. In more serious cases, drivers can be blocked from using highways or freeways, and in extreme situations, renewal can be refused entirely until corrective steps are taken. This is not a hypothetical scenario. It is already happening to real people in multiple states. The critical point is that failing a vision test does not automatically mean you lose your license forever. In many cases, the DMV simply wants proof that any vision issue is being properly addressed, which can mean getting a new prescription for glasses or contact lenses, visiting an eye doctor for a more detailed exam, or pursuing treatment when appropriate. In some situations, medical care such as cataract surgery can dramatically improve vision and allow a driver to pass with no restrictions at all. But here's the part that matters most. Waiting until the DMV forces the issue is the worst strategy. The smartest approach is preparation. If you are 65 or older and your renewal is coming up within the next year, schedule a comprehensive eye exam as soon as possible. Verify your prescription is up to date, and confirm your glasses or contacts are working properly. If you have known vision conditions, discuss treatment options with your doctor now rather than waiting for a problem to appear at the counter. You can even practice basic vision screening checks at home or at nearby local facilities so you are not caught off guard when the DMV chart is in front of you. Taking action early can be the difference between a smooth renewal and a stressful process filled with delays and restrictions. And it is also worth remembering that even if restrictions are placed, that does not automatically end independence. Many seniors continue driving safely and confidently with reasonable limits. Officials say the intent is not to punish older drivers, but to ensure everyone on the road can see clearly enough to drive safely. And whether you agree with the approach or not, the reality is that this change is here and spreading nationwide, so staying informed and prepared is the best protection against unpleasant surprises. Now let's pivot to the second major rule change, the one that affects every single driver regardless of age, the real-time insurance monitoring system. This 2026 change has nothing to do with vision or driving skill, yet in many ways, it is the most unforgiving shift of all. States across the country are using real-time insurance verification systems connected directly to DMV databases, meaning your insurance status can be monitored automatically every single day without you having to do anything and without you necessarily realizing it is happening. In the past, if insurance lapsed briefly, the DMV might not learn about it unless you were pulled over or involved in a crash. And there was often an unofficial grace period that let people fix administrative mistakes without immediate fallout. That cushion is disappearing. Under the new system, the moment an insurance company reports a cancellation or even a brief interruption, the DMV can be notified instantly, and penalties can start almost immediately, with no letters, no warnings, and no second chances. Here is what that looks like in real terms. If your insurance lapses for even a single day, your vehicle registration can be automatically suspended, and you might receive a notice saying your car is no longer legally allowed on the road, even though you had no idea anything was wrong. On top of that, many states impose fines ranging from $100 to $500 or more, depending on how long the lapse lasted, and even after you correct the issue and obtain new coverage, reinstatement fees can still be required just to reactivate your registration. In some states, if the lapse lasts long enough or happens more than once, the punishment can expand beyond registration to your driver's license itself, meaning you could lose the legal right to drive any car at all. And here's the brutal part. The system does not care why the lapse happened, whether it was a missed payment, an expired credit card, or a banking error, because it only tracks one thing: whether you are insured at every single moment. To see how strict it has become, picture a very common scenario. Your insurance is set to auto-pay each month. Your credit card expires, you forget to update the payment information, the charge fails, and the policy cancels at midnight. Within hours, that cancellation can be reflected in the DMV database. You continue driving to work, running errands, living normally, completely unaware anything changed. Then a week later, a letter shows up saying your registration has been suspended and you owe hundreds of dollars in fines and fees. And until you provide proof of new insurance and pay what is due, you are not legally allowed to drive. If you get pulled over during that gap, consequences can escalate fast, including additional tickets, possible vehicle impoundment, and even criminal charges in some states. This is not rare. It is happening daily to responsible drivers who made a small administrative mistake, because real-time verification is already fully active in many states and expanding rapidly. Lawmakers and insurance regulators describe the goal as reducing uninsured drivers and making enforcement more efficient. But for everyday people, it means there is essentially zero room for error. So what can you do to protect yourself? Start with the basics. Use automatic payments for your insurance and regularly confirm your payment method is current. If you receive a new debit card or credit card, update the insurer immediately rather than waiting for the next billing cycle. Be especially careful when switching providers. Shopping around to save money can be smart, but you must ensure there is absolutely no gap between the old policy ending and the new policy beginning, because even a single day without coverage can trigger the system. Get written confirmation of start and end dates and keep those records safe. Also, make it a habit to check your insurance account online or through the provider's mobile app, because many companies send alerts if a payment fails or if a policy is at risk of cancellation, and those messages are no longer safe to ignore. And keep proof of insurance easy to access both in your car and on your phone, because if law enforcement stops you, being able to show valid proof immediately can prevent additional problems. This system is described as a public safety improvement, but it also means honest mistakes can now come with very fast, very expensive consequences, and staying on top of coverage is no longer optional. It is essential. Now we move to the third major rule change, the one reshaping driver behavior more than anything else: the dramatic expansion of distracted driving enforcement. For years, most states had laws against texting or holding a phone while driving, yet enforcement often felt inconsistent, and many drivers treated the rules like suggestions rather than serious violations. That era is over. In 2026, distracted driving laws are being enforced more aggressively than ever, and the penalties are harsher. First-time offenses that once brought small fines can now cost hundreds of dollars. Repeat violations can lead to points on your license, mandatory safety courses, and even temporary license suspensions. And insurers are responding by sharply raising rates for people caught breaking these laws. A single distracted driving ticket can push premiums higher for several years, turning one citation into a long-term financial hit. What makes this wave of enforcement even more powerful is the technology being used to catch violations. Many states are rolling out advanced camera systems equipped with artificial intelligence that can detect when a driver is holding a phone, looking down toward their lap, or interacting with a device. In some areas, citations can be generated automatically without an officer ever pulling you over, meaning you might not realize you were flagged until a ticket arrives days or weeks later with photographic evidence. And the legal definition of distracted driving has expanded far beyond what many drivers expect. In numerous states, you can be cited for simply glancing at your phone while stopped at a red light. You can be ticketed for touching your phone to change music or check directions even if the vehicle is not moving. And even holding the phone in your hand while sitting in traffic can qualify as a violation. Picture the most ordinary moment. You are waiting at a stoplight, your phone buzzes with a notification, and out of habit, you look down for just a second to see who messaged you. You do not reply and you do not type, you just glance. Under these new enforcement standards, that brief look can be enough for a ticket. An officer nearby can cite you immediately, or an automated camera system can capture the moment. Weeks later, you are paying $200 or $300. Points are added to your record, and your insurance rate jumps dramatically, and what felt harmless can end up costing thousands of dollars over time. So, how do you avoid becoming the next expensive lesson? The safest approach is to treat your phone as completely off limits anytime you are behind the wheel. Keep it out of reach in a bag, in the glove compartment, or in the back seat. If you need GPS, set the destination before you start driving and place the phone in a secure dashboard mount. Do not adjust it while the vehicle is moving, and avoid touching it even when stopped in traffic. If you must make a call or handle something urgent, pull into a parking lot, put the car in park, and deal with it safely, because a few extra minutes is nothing compared to a costly ticket and years of higher premiums. These laws may feel strict, but they are framed as a response to one of the leading causes of accidents in the country. And in 2026, enforcement is stronger than it has ever been. Put these three changes together: vision retesting for seniors, real-time insurance monitoring, and aggressive distracted driving enforcement, and you get a major shift in how driving laws are applied across America, reshaping what it takes to stay legal on the road. Understanding these rules is no longer just helpful. It is essential knowledge for any driver trying to avoid fines, suspensions, and unnecessary headaches. It also helps to step back and see why these changes are arriving at the same time. Because on the surface, they can look unrelated, yet they fit a larger national trend. Federal transportation agencies have pushed states for years to tighten regulations, especially around senior safety and distracted driving, and states that adopt stricter enforcement can receive additional federal funding for roads and infrastructure, while states that do not comply risk losing money. At the same time, the insurance industry has pushed hard for real-time verification because uninsured drivers cost companies billions of dollars every year, and by automating enforcement and wiping out grace periods, insurers reduce financial risk while shifting responsibility to drivers and state agencies. Add the reality of rising accident rates. Despite vehicles being safer than ever, crashes involving distracted driving and older drivers have been increasing, and lawmakers feel pressure to take visible action. And finally, technology makes all of this possible. 10 or 15 years ago, states did not have the databases, AI camera systems, and instant communication networks needed to enforce rules with this level of speed and precision. But now, they do. Whether you agree with the policies or not, the truth is that they are here. They are active, and they are set to expand in the coming years. That leads to an uncomfortable but necessary question. What happens if you ignore the new rules or assume they do not apply to you? The consequences can be far more serious than many people realize. If you are over 65 and required to complete a vision test, but you skip it and keep driving on an expired license, you are technically driving illegally, and getting caught can bring heavy fines, vehicle impoundment, and in some cases, even arrest. If your insurance lapses and you keep driving, the financial risk can become enormous because being involved in an accident while uninsured, even if the accident is not your fault, can leave you personally responsible for medical bills, property damage, and legal claims that can reach tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, putting savings, a home, and future income at risk. And with distracted driving, repeated violations can stack up quickly into suspensions, court appearances, and insurance premiums that can triple overnight. These are not theoretical worst-case fears. They are real outcomes drivers across the country are already experiencing because they did not realize how strict the system has become. For senior drivers especially, the changes can feel overwhelming and even unfair. Many older adults have decades of safe driving behind them and suddenly face new hurdles just to keep doing what they have always done. Some states are even considering additional requirements beyond vision screening, such as more frequent renewals or cognitive assessments for drivers over a certain age. Advocacy groups argue that policies like these unfairly target seniors and threaten independence, while state officials insist the purpose is safety, not punishment. If you or someone you care about worries about how these rules could affect daily life, planning ahead matters. Many communities offer transportation services designed for older adults, including low-cost ride programs, volunteer driver networks, and local shuttles. They may not fully replace the freedom of driving yourself, but they can help maintain mobility if restrictions become necessary. Honest conversations with family about future driving plans can also prevent stressful situations later, because preparing early is always better than being forced to react after a problem arises. The most practical way to handle all of this is to focus on what you can control right now. Start by treating the vision testing requirements seriously if you are 65 or older. Do not wait for a surprise appointment notice. Schedule an eye exam early, update your prescription, and address potential issues before they become barriers. Next, treat car insurance as one of the most important bills you pay. Enable automatic payments, double-check account details, and never allow even a single day without coverage. If you change providers, confirm in writing there is absolutely no gap, not even for one day. And when it comes to distracted driving, adopt a zero-tolerance rule with your phone. Put it out of reach before the car moves and keep it there until you reach your destination. These small adjustments can feel inconvenient at first, but they can prevent enormous headaches and expenses down the road. The bigger message behind the 2026 DMV changes is crystal clear. Driving laws are becoming more automated, more data-driven, and far less forgiving than they used to be. Systems that once relied on human discretion are increasingly controlled by computers that act instantly and without exceptions, which means personal responsibility has never mattered more. Staying informed is no longer optional. It is the difference between smooth, stress-free driving and a cascade of penalties that can disrupt your life. The good news is that none of these changes are impossible to navigate. With preparation and awareness, you can adapt to the new rules and continue driving confidently and legally. And sharing accurate, practical knowledge can help you and the people around you avoid unnecessary trouble. Most drivers only learn about these rules after a costly mistake, but you now have the advantage of knowing in advance. Use that advantage, stay proactive, stay prepared, and keep safety at the center of every mile. Looking ahead, it is important to recognize that these 2026 rule changes are likely just the beginning, because once stricter systems are implemented, driving laws and DMV policies rarely move backward. Many experts expect more automation and monitoring in the years ahead. Additional states are already discussing tougher renewal requirements for older drivers, including more frequent testing and shorter renewal periods. Real-time insurance tracking is expected to spread nationwide until every state uses instant verification. Distracted driving enforcement technology is also expected to grow more advanced, with cameras and artificial intelligence playing an even bigger role in how violations are detected. The direction is clear. Driving in America is becoming more regulated, more data-driven, and more strictly enforced than at any point in the past. And for everyday drivers, that means the margin for error keeps shrinking, because simple mistakes that once resulted in a warning or minor inconvenience can now trigger automatic penalties within days or even hours. The best way to adapt is to treat your driving privileges with extra care, thinking of your license, your insurance, and your behind-the-wheel habits as things that need regular maintenance, just like your vehicle. So what should you actually do from this moment forward? The smartest approach is to build a simple personal action plan so none of these new rules catch you by surprise. If you are 65 or older, schedule a professional eye exam immediately, even if your renewal is still months away, because comfort behind the wheel is not proof that vision has not changed. If you wear glasses or contacts, confirm your prescription is current and keep a backup pair available. For insurance, sign into your account and confirm your payment method is updated and automatic payments are active. Save digital proof of your policy on your phone and keep a paper copy in your vehicle as well. If you ever plan to switch insurance companies, handle that process with extra care and double-check that there will be no gap in coverage, not even for a single day. And for distracted driving, set a firm personal rule that your phone stays out of your hands anytime you are behind the wheel, because habits like placing it in the glove box or using a hands-free mount can protect you from expensive tickets and long-term insurance increases. The idea to remember is that these changes are not described as a way to punish responsible drivers. They are described as an effort to create a safer road environment. But good intentions do not change the reality that the system is now far less forgiving than it used to be. Waiting until a problem happens is the worst strategy, because being proactive is what keeps you in control. The inconvenience of scheduling an appointment, updating an account, or changing a habit is tiny compared with the stress of dealing with fines, suspensions, or legal trouble. And every driver has the ability to avoid those outcomes by staying informed and taking a few practical steps in advance. As you move through 2026 and beyond, commit to staying ahead of these changes rather than reacting after the damage is done. Check your state DMV website periodically for updates, take official letters or emails seriously instead of brushing them aside, make sure older family members understand these requirements so renewal time does not become a shock, and treat distraction-free driving as a serious responsibility rather than a casual routine. Those simple actions can save thousands of dollars, protect your driving privileges, and most importantly, help keep you and everyone else on the road safer. Char count 24860.